Jonathan Lee Riches Investigates. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho Bryan Kohberger case. I've been reading your comments in all my videos centered around this tragedy. And in the last few days, since it's been announced that Bryan Kohberger has been indicted by a grand jury in Idaho, and he has court Monday morning, May 22nd at 9 a.m. Pacific, a lot of people are asking, what if Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty? What happens? And that's a great question, because according to Idaho court rules, Bryan Kohberger has two options when he goes into court on Monday. He pleads guilty or he doesn't plead. He pleads not guilty. Let me give you, one of the news agencies kind of breaks this down a little bit. Let me share that information. So KREM2 News is reporting what to expect during Monday's hearing, Bryan Kohberger's arraignment for his indictment. Kohberger's arraignment is set to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 22nd. During this hearing, the judge will reiterate the suspect's rights and the charges against him. The judge will likely ask him to enter a plea for each charge. In Idaho, only two pleas are recognized, guilty or not guilty. If a suspect refuses to enter a plea or fails to appear at the hearing, the court will enter a plea of not guilty on the suspect's behalf. If Kohberger pleads guilty, the court will order a pre-sentence investigation. An investigator will compile a pre-sentence report which contains information about the defendant that will assist the judge in determining an appropriate sentence. These reports are confidential as they contain detailed information about the defendant's personal life, social history, and other sensitive details. If he pleads not guilty, the court will schedule the case for trial. So, here you go. This is the two options, guilty or not guilty. And if he does plead guilty, then he doesn't get sentenced that day. It's a pre-sentence report will be done and conducted, and then he'll go for sentencing later on a future date. Let me know what you think. You think he's going to plead guilty, or do you think he's going to plead not guilty? I personally think not guilty. What do you think? Now, that report is not necessarily right. Not all the time does someone get a pre-sentence investigation if they plead guilty before sentencing, right? So it's saying there, if Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty on Monday, a pre-sentence investigation would be ordered. But that's not necessarily true, right? Judge might not issue that according to Idaho court rules. And I want to share Idaho court rules with you. This is Idaho Criminal Rule 32, Pre-Sentence Investigations and Reports. The following standards and procedures govern pre-sentence investigations and reports in Idaho courts. A. When pre-sentence investigations are to be ordered, the trial judge may, but is not required to, order a pre-sentence investigation. With respect to felony convictions, if the trial court does not require a pre-sentence investigation, the record must show affirmatively why such an investigation was not ordered. Contents of pre-sentence investigation report. A trial judge may request a record check and other background information concerning the defendant prior to sentence without ordering a full pre-sentence investigation of the defendant. However, when a full pre-sentence investigation is ordered, the report of the investigation must contain the following elements: the description of the situation surrounding the criminal activity with which the defendant has been charged, including the defendant's version of the criminal act and the defendant's explanation for the act, the arresting officer's version or the report of the offense, where available, and the victim's version where relevant to the sentencing decision, any prior criminal record of the defendant's social history, including family relationships, marital status, age, interests, and activities, the defendant's educational background, the defendant's employment background, including any military record, and defendant's present employment status and capabilities, the resident's history of the defendant, the financial status of the defendant, the health of the defendant's sense of values and outlook on life in general, the results of any substance abuse evaluation, mental health evaluation, domestic assault and battery evaluation, evaluations, including any report prepared under Idaho Code 192522. The pre-sentence investigator's analysis of the defendant's condition. The analysis of the defendant's condition contained in the pre-sentence report should include a complete summary of the pre-sentence investigator's view of the psychological factors surrounding the commission of the crime or regarding the defendant individually, which the investigator discovers. Where appropriate, the analyst should also include a specific recommendation regarding a psychological examination and plan of rehabilitation. Recommendations concerning sentence. The pre-sentence report may contain incarceration, but it should not contain specific recommendations concerning the length of incarceration, the imposition of fine, or the amount of the fine, or the length of probation, or other matters that are within the province of the court. The pre-sentence report may, however, recommend programs or treatment for the defendant and comment as to the length of time that may be required for the defendant to complete any recommended programs or treatment. The pre-sentence report may also comment generally on the probability of the defendant successfully completing the term of probation or the defendant's financial ability to pay a fine imposed by the court. I don't think those things apply to Bryan in reference to probation. Do you think that? No, I don't think he's getting probation at all. Psychological evaluations. The pre-sentence investigator may recommend a psychological evaluation, but the decision as to whether to order a psychological evaluation is to be made by the sentencing judge. So that is for access to pre-sentence report, disclosure of report exemptions, full disclosure of the contents of any pre-sentence report considered by any sentencing court must be made to the defendant, defendant's counsel, and the prosecuting attorney prior to any hearing on the sentence, except as provided in this rule. The defendant and defendant's attorney must be given a full opportunity to examine the pre-sentence investigation report so that if the defendant desires, the defendant may explain and defend adverse matters in it. The defendant must be afforded a full opportunity to present favorable evidence in defendant's behalf during the proceeding involving the determination of sentence. The trial court may, however, withhold from disclosure parts of the pre-sentence report that contain diagnostics opinion that might severely disrupt a program or rehabilitation, information that in the court's discretion may prove harmful to an individual not a party in the proceeding, or pictures of children that are separately identified. So these are the rules. You can scroll down and look at some of the rules here. Disclosure of pre-sentence reports. This is Idaho Court Rule 32. So it kind of gives you an analysis on if Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty Monday. It's most likely he will be ordered. A pre-sentence investigation report will be ordered by the judge, and then they will evaluate the situation and come up with a report after doing a thorough investigation. Though it seems like the judge may not order one in certain situations, but I think the standard is pre-sentence investigations. We'll see if Bryan Kohberger pleads guilty or not. What's your thoughts? I'm sharing all this to give you guys an understanding, an idea how the process works and the possibilities. Will Bryan Kohberger plead guilty? I think there's like a 1% chance he will plead guilty, though it's happened before that people plead guilty at their arraignments. I don't think there's a plea bargain, a secret plea bargain between the prosecution and defense. Though the prosecution went with grand jury to avoid a preliminary hearing, reason being, I'm hearing that they didn't want to put these vulnerable roommates, victims on the stand. Maybe the prosecution has something up their sleeve with the defense on a deal to prevent the victims, the surviving roommates, from testifying, and other court or other law enforcement personnel or other people to prevent just a dragged out trial. Just make a deal with Bryan Kohberger, have him plead guilty. DP, no DP, you know what DP stands for, and he spends the rest of his life in prison. That's a strong possibility down the line. Will it happen Monday? I don't know, but I was giving you the two scenarios, the two only scenarios. Even if Bryan Kohberger went in there and stayed quiet, the judge would issue not guilty plea on his behalf, and then it goes to the process. Let me know what you think. Will Bryan Kohberger plead guilty Monday or not? But this kind of breaks down the process of what's going on. Subscribe to my channel, like, hit the notification button, covering this case at all angles, showing you court rules, the policy and procedure when it comes to the Kohberger case. You guys can go check it out yourself. Check out that Idaho court rule yourself and do your own research. Maybe shepherdize other cases and see what other people's outcomes were. Bryan Kohberger will be in court Monday. I'll be broadcasting that on this channel. So I'll be going live in the morning, Monday morning, and we will break it all down in real time. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys Monday live. In the meantime, I'll be posting more Kohberger videos, more videos on the Moscow, Idaho case. Everyone be safe. God bless.